Hey guys, welcome back to another video. It's Mr. Frosty Flames here, and today I just want to switch it up a bit and I want to do a different type of video where you guys get to learn about me. I am a Mortal Kombat player at heart, and then again I started this whole channel and it blew up because of Mortal Kombat. So why don't you guys learn about me, and I want to list and rank all my favorite Mortal Kombat games. I have a standard tier list here set up, S, A, B, C, D, and I also have a not play tier because I want to rank all these games based off of my opinion, and I feel like it would be unfair to a certain game if I haven't played it and I just started ranking it based off of what people were saying. Like, there were some games here that I played that were absolute dog shit, and there were games here that I didn't play but I know are dog shit, but I'm just gonna put it in the not played because I just don't want to put it over something if I just haven't played it myself. Let's just get right into it. So the first game right here is Mortal Kombat 2, the arcade one. Now I feel like Mortal Kombat 2 did a lot for the series because it was really the game that started, because Mortal Kombat 1 was sort of that like test game, right? But Mortal Kombat 2 really just blew it out of proportion. They added a bunch of classic characters like Kitana, Melina, Baraka, Jax, all those guys, and it was just an amazing game to play. The only thing that I don't like about the arcade games from what I played was the bullshit AI. These games were made to suck in your quarters so you could keep playing and the arcade will get more money, because the AI would go batshit crazy and destroy you, and Mortal Kombat 2 was sort of infamous. I mean, as a matter of fact, all the arcade games were kind of infamous for that. Since I grew up, I'm a 2000s kid, I didn't really play them in person in an arcade, but I played them, on the PS1. I played the Classic Collection. It's basically just ports of the arcade version, so I feel like I could justify ranking this. But, since I am a 2000s kid, I wasn't born when Mortal Kombat first came out. I didn't have that nostalgia for playing this. There's one game I'll get to in particular that I have immense nostalgia for. I think that's Mortal Kombat 3. However, these games were just kind of a filler for me because I really got into the series around, the 3D era. So when I played this as a kid compared to the 3D era games, obviously I was like, yo, the 3D era games are so much better. They're newer. You could move around on a 3D plane. So in my opinion, I wasn't a big fan of the arcade games, but I do respect them. Therefore, I want to put Mortal Kombat 2 on the B tier because, it's not the best arcade game in my opinion. There's a better one, and it's way better than, say, let me look for it. Let me rank all the arcade games right now. Let's try to go in order. Where's Mortal Kombat 1? Right here. Okay, I don't know how I see it. I want to put Mortal Kombat 1 directly behind it because, it did start the series, and it was sort of, like I said, like a test to see if, this was a good concept, if people were going to like it. If people didn't like Mortal Kombat 1, they probably weren't going to make a Mortal Kombat 2 or 3 or 4 or however more. But I do think Mortal Kombat 2 fundamentally improves on everything Mortal Kombat 1 has, and it just blows it out. So I'd rather play 2 over 1, but they're very close to each other. Next up right here is, let's go to Mortal Kombat 3 Ultimate. Is it on here? Mortal Kombat 3. So this is the base game. I know the base game did some crazy shit, like they made Sub-Zero unmasked, they took out Scorpion, like they wanted to pivot their roster and players hated it. So I want to put it right behind Mortal Kombat 1 because, it was a good game. Actually, I'll put it right in front of it because it was a good game, but probably not as good as 2. And that's why they put out Mortal Kombat Ultimate 3. Now, this game I say is on an A tier in my opinion because I played all these, and this game is perhaps the best arcade game, if you want to go into a Mortal Kombat arcade. The only, gripe I have is, again, the batshit AI. It's crazy, and it's just bullshit. It's like unfair. A lot of times the AI would be programmed to read your inputs. There's a YouTuber that encapsulates this perfectly. Have you heard of G-Star321? He doesn't really upload anymore. I wonder where he's at, but he's a classic Mortal Kombat YouTuber. He's a horror game YouTuber and everything, but he built his channel based off of Mortal Kombat, and people know him for doing these playthroughs of these arcade games, and he rages hard, and he's a good player, you know. He played these games like tooth and nail, you know. He's a good player, and he dies a lot because he doesn't try to resort to cheese unless he has to, and these games really break people. Now, this is the game that I'm nostalgic for, is Mortal Kombat 3 Trilogy. This basically took everything from the first 3 games and put them into one and then some. Like, you can finally play as the bosses like Shao Kahn, Motaro, Kintaro, Goro. It was cool. And this was my first introduction to the series. I swear I was like 4 years old when I was playing this game. And I remember I always used to play Nightwolf and Shang Tsung because I thought their face paint was cool. I was different, you know. I didn't immediately gear towards the ninjas. But this game holds a special place in my heart, although I don't think it is as good as Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. I played Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 more, but I want to put Mortal Kombat 3 Trilogy above all the other arcade games because this game really just kind of launched me. It holds a special place in my heart. Then again, this is my opinion, and I really, you know, enjoyed this game. So now we're just going to go in order of what this is. So Mortal Kombat Mythologies Sub-Zero. I played this game for the first time in the Legacy Collection. And honestly, I didn't beat the game. But I can't say that I enjoyed the game. It was supposed to be like a 2D, you know, you're playing a Sub-Zero and you're going through the levels, you're just beating up people, but the controls were just dog shit. I had to enable cheats, and I just didn't have too much fun with the game. I mean, I really have to put it in D tier. I enjoy other people I enjoy watching other people play this game, but I don't enjoy myself playing this game. Especially that what was it? Is that second level, that Fujin level with the rotating spoons, and you could jump off the map and then like Sub-Zero falls, man. Like, I died in that level so many times, and I don't like it. I got to like the 3rd or 4th level, I forgot, you know, and it's just, I don't really have anything else to say about it other than I don't like it. Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance. This game really propelled me into the 3D era. I love the 3D era games. However, I gotta think about this. So it was the first, like, I say, actual 3D. I know Mortal Kombat 4 was sort of experimenting in the 3D realm, but Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance fully pivoted into the 3D realm. I enjoy the roster of this game. I enjoyed the... So this game, I'm trying to think, because I'm just sort of freestyling this video. It launched the conquest mode, and then it had the crypt. So this game really was very experimental for a lot of modes and stuff that are mainlining Mortal Kombat games other than Mortal Kombat 1, like the crypt, and then some sort of like story mode. And I feel like this game really, you know, dove into the story, you know, because a lot of times in the arcade games there was a story, but it was just like etched together by arcade endings and like going deep into like the bios and stuff, but they didn't have like a standalone, like, this is what happened, right until like Mortal Kombat like 4 or like Trilogy. But this one really like dove into a lot of backstory, and you get like the birth of like the Red Dragon clan, although you have some shitty ass characters in this game like Su Hao. I enjoyed it. I feel like the 3D hate is sort of forced. I like this better than Mortal Kombat Trilogy. I don't think it's as good as the best arcade game in my opinion, but I enjoyed it more than Trilogy. It's a very nostalgic game. I love the roster. I love the new characters. One of my favorite Mortal Kombat characters actually returning as a cameo in Mortal Kombat 1 was actually introduced in Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance, and that was Mavado. I just thought he was so cool. Like, he had that long black trench coat with the Red Dragon logo, and he had the little... It kind of reminded me of ODM gear from Attack on Titan, you know, where he could launch and propel himself forward with his, whatever he had, those grappling hooks or something, and I thought it was so cool. But yeah, next up, by far is probably one of my favorite Mortal Kombat games, and let me tell you why. Mortal Kombat Deception. But I played it on the PSP with Mortal Kombat Unchained, which added a few more characters, and I think that's about it. But the same thing as Deception. The reason why I loved this game so much was because of the conquest mode. I put so many hours into the conquest mode. I just loved the feeling. So then again, some context about myself. I love RPG games. I love open world games. And with Deception, it really dove into like a potential open world Mortal Kombat game, and it was actually executed fairly well for the time. So you played as Shujinko, and you would start off as like a young Shujinko, and you would sort of go about his life, and he would get older, and he would train with masters, and you follow his story as he grabbed all the Kamidogu and gave it to Onaga, powering him up. Now that was cool. What you could do in this conquest mode was actually walk around, talk to different characters, do side quests, do main quests, solve puzzles, and then it just really helped, you know, encapsulate the whole Mortal Kombat lore, especially how you could go into all the different realms. Like you start off in Earth Realm, then I believe next was Nether Realm, and then so on and so on. There's the Chaos Realm, Order Realm, Edenia, Outworld. They're all of them, and you could explore all of them, and it was so cool because I would watch guides on try to get like 100%. And it was so cool. I would find these chests, unlock characters, collect the coins, etc, etc. And that was just one mode in the game. I love a open world Mortal Kombat game or something like that. Street Fighter 6 essentially did the same thing with the World Tour mode, whereas, you know, your character, you could view him as your Shujinko, your avatar guy in Street Fighter 6, where you could go around, do side quests, talk to the masters, and you know, do quests for them, learn and train with them. And it was so cool. I feel like Mortal Kombat should do something like that in the future, or at least bring back the conquest mode in some capacity. And like I said, this is just one mode in Deception. You had something like Puzzle Combat, where it was just like a Tetris, but you know, you were in Mortal Kombat style. So every time you would land a block, or you would get like a full row and it would break, your character would punch the avatar, and then at the end there would be a fatality depending on the stage you're in. It was cool. And then you had chess combat, which was, you know, you had your pawn, like all your pawns. I don't play chess, but I just remember playing chess combat a lot because you could choose your team. You have your king, and your goal was to defeat the other king, etc, etc. And then you had your standard arcade mode. So this game was fairly stacked for the time and for the 3D era. And honestly, if I were to get another 3D era game remastered or remade, I would love for Deception to come back. Next up is Mortal Kombat vs. DC Universe. This was the game that I initially played on the Xbox 360. And a lot of people know this, but I'm surprised a lot of people don't know this, but this game actually paved the way for Injustice. And Injustice is a game that I love a lot. It's not here, but this game really was toned down a lot. For a Mortal Kombat game, a lot of people love the violence, they love the maturity, they love the fatalities, the brutalities, but here, even the fatalities weren't really fatalities. It was just like, I can't really remember any. I just remember they were goofy. Like, for example, like you would just jump on somebody. There would be no dismemberment or nothing. And it was because they had the DC characters in here. They didn't want to, how do I say it? Because DC characters are comics, they're superheroes, so a lot of kids would play them. And I don't remember if this game was rated T for teen. They brought the rating down to make it more accessible for kids, and I just didn't feel like it fit Mortal Kombat. But I do respect the game as a whole. That's why I want to put it at C tier, because it was a Mortal Kombat game. It is playable. I feel like when people hate on it, it's kind of overhated because it was, you know, toned down a lot. People don't really look past that. But the game was broken as a whole. It didn't really have many modes. The story mode is not canon, obviously. Or maybe it is because of the multiverse BS, but who knows. But I really forget about this game a lot. It's probably one of the most forgettable Mortal Kombat games. And that's all I have to say about that. Mortal Kombat 4. I have to put it. So this was the first 3D era game. Very experimental at the time, too. Half the roster were like new characters. I remember you had like Fujin, Quan Chi, Shinnok, Tanya, Kai, Reiko. Who else was in that game? Pretty sure there was Jarek. Yeah, that Jarek scream, that was pretty funny. So the endings and everything. Have you seen the endings in this game? You should watch them. They're pretty goofy. Now this game, it is a Mortal Kombat game. Again, there aren't many modes. It was kind of like a mix of like trying to go into the 3D era game, but still trying to stay arcadey. And I didn't really like it because I felt like it was kind of clunky. It was awkward. The graphics looked bad. But, you just respect it for what it was. It's really paved the way for the 3D era games, and just the 3D era games paved the way for the modern games. So I haven't really had much to say to this other than it's just a funny game because it's just kind of bad and it's corny. You could do stuff like pick up weapons from the ground, or like each map has weapons, you could pick them up and then use them, but it wasn't really that, great. Mortal Kombat X, XL. At the time, I remember when Mortal Kombat X was coming out, I pre-ordered it and then I played it and I hated it. I had no idea why. I thought that because, they had the combat kids and a bunch of new characters, I guess I was a bit younger and I was more resistant to change, so I didn't really like it. But now, out of all the NRS modern games, it's probably my favorite, so I have to put this on S tier. I love it a lot. In fact, out of all the Mortal Kombat games that I've played, if I had to choose one character I could play forever from any game, like their moveset and everything, it would have to be MKX Tanya. I just thought it was so fun with the Dragon Naginata variation where she's like on her pogo stick. If you see my analysis videos before, you could see me playing as her in the background, and I just think it's so fun because she could really jump on, she has a Naginata and she uses it like a pogo stick, like ding ding ding. She could jump around, she could teleport up. She's very like an aerial assault kind of character, and I feel like it's unique. There isn't really much of it at the time, especially like maybe MK11 Cabal is sort of similar, but MK1 Tanya plays very different than MKX Tanya. So my favorite character in any NRS game playing in the most fun factor is probably just MKX Tanya. I loved it. Then again, this game was also very fast paced, so it did fit, the vibe, and I love the fast pace. It was broken as shit though. There was a lot of bullshit stuff you could do in this game, but it really launched the huge competitive scene for Mortal Kombat. You get the birth of like people like Ninja Killer and his Liu Kang, and seeing all the crazy stuff he could do. And then you get some cool characters like Aaron Black. He's very amazing. And then now the Combat Kids, and at the time people didn't like them, but now they're starting to grow on me. MK11, I mean Cassie Cage, and I think she's cool. I think Takeda's cool. Kung Jin, he's pretty cool. I just don't really like Jackie. The other new character is Ferrator. I want to see Ferrator come back. I want to see. I don't want to see Devora come back, at least not yet. But she's probably gonna come back because NRS likes to milk her. And who else was new in that game? I think that's about it. Really, kind of, this game had a bunch of horror characters that were. I think it had the best guest character roster. I know I was gonna say that this game started, but I remember MK9 had guest characters, and I know Soul Calibur had them before, but it really paved the way for monetization, DLC guest characters. And I don't know how I feel about guest characters now. I'm just trying to choose my words carefully. Sorry if I'm like slow talking, but I don't know how to feel about guest characters now. I think that sometimes they waste space, but in MKX's case, they were done really good. Next up is Mortal Kombat Tournament Edition. I know this is on the Legacy Collection. I played it once for like 5 minutes and then I closed it because it was really like hard to play. Like the graphics were very pixelated and I just don't remember anything about it. So I'm thinking of putting this on the not played, but if I said it was not played, then I'd be lying because I did play it for 5 minutes technically. But I guess in that 5 minutes playing it, it didn't really give me enough, to keep playing. Mortal Kombat Gold is basically like Mortal Kombat 4 but with extra characters, and overall it's just better. This is what I hoped that they put in the Legacy Collection, but they just put Mortal Kombat 4, the arcade version. I think that it's basically the same thing as Mortal Kombat 4 with more characters and a little more, backstory and stuff like that. So everything I said about Mortal Kombat 4 applies to Mortal Kombat Gold, but it's just better. Next up is probably one of the greatest Mortal Kombat games of all time, Mortal Kombat 9. I love this game a lot. This is probably my most played Mortal Kombat game as a kid, and let me tell you why. the tag fight combat was very, very cool for the time. It wasn't innovative because other games did tag fighters before. However, seeing it in Mortal Kombat is really, good. I just loved, picking two characters, switching between the characters, and then you could do them combos where they come out and do whatever they gotta do. I'm imagining Katana, with the throwing the fans and stuff like that. But I love this game a lot. Holds a really good place in my heart. Obviously, it rebooted the story, and it told the story of the original arcade game. So basically, after Mortal Kombat Armageddon, everyone's dead. They didn't really know where to go, and plus, Midway went bankrupt, so NetherRealm kind of like took over, and they wanted a clean slate. So they rebooted it like a soft reboot, where the Armageddon Raiden sends a message back to MK1 Raiden or whoever, right? While they're doing the tournament, and then it basically like goes from there, and it starts the whole Mortal Kombat trilogy all over again. So it really tells the story of Mortal Kombat 1, 2, and 3 together. And then I say Mortal Kombat X is really telling the story of like Mortal Kombat 4, I guess, right? And then on and on. However, the story was executed really well. There were some BS parts, with Sindel killing half the roster with slaps and kicks. It really makes no sense. But I loved it for what it was. It had that challenge tower game mode. It has the tags, test your luck, test your sight, test your might, all that stuff. And it really was, I'd say, the most Mortal Kombat game. The fatalities were awesome. They had babalities. It started guest characters. It had a good DLC for at the time, bringing Kenshi, bringing Scarlet as a character, which was awesome. Having an alternate Cyber Sub-Zero, which was a skeptic. People still wanted smoke, but it was a cool take on it. And then obviously Freddy, and then Kratos if you were on the PS3. It was amazing. Next up is probably the most unique Mortal Kombat game here. It's gonna be S tier again. Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks. So this was during the PS2 era. So I didn't do my research. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but this game really does play like the classic God of Wars. So I know those games were really exploding at the time. So I don't know if this was Midway's take on making some sort of like hack and slash beat 'em up, but whatever it is, it worked. So in this game, you played as Kung Lao and Liu Kang for the main story. You could play as other characters, but the story revolved around them, hence the name Shaolin Monks. And it wasn't a traditional Mortal Kombat game. It was sort of, like I said, like the classic God of Wars 1, 2, 3, where it kind of puts you in these levels, and you go around the level and you beat up the enemies. Not in like a Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero way, but more in like that classic God of War style, where you're going around, you could do combos, and then you could collect the souls and then use them to purchase more skills and stuff like that. It really was like a semi like action adventure, open world to a certain extent, where you're just open world to the level. You could go all around, but it was really cool. You could like go team up with your buddy, and then you could play as Liu Kang and he could play as Kung Lao, or vice versa. You could unlock some characters like Johnny Cage, Katana, and play as them. And then it went through the whole story, and it had a cool intro. That's what I also have to say. These 3D era games had amazing intros where they're like fighting and stuff. Like the Armageddon intro was really amazing too. Deceptions with Shang Tsung, Quan Chi, Raiden fighting Onaga, and then Deadly Alliance with Liu Kang dying. It was really amazing. Shaolin Monks did the same thing too, with the whole tournament fight in front of Shang Tsung, and then it shows why Liu Kang and Kung Lao ended up in the situation they were in. But overall, I didn't play this game much, but what I did play of it, I do remember having immense fun. But this game is hard to come by now. So I say, if they were to remake or remaster any Mortal Kombat game, they gotta port this, or at least remaster, remake something, because it really is a different Mortal Kombat game for the time, and a lot of players actually want Shaolin Monks too because of how good it is. And it's a very innovative game for the time, at least for the Mortal Kombat series, and it really took the series in a different direction, which I'd want to see more. Like how I said with Deception, how I wanted a open world Mortal Kombat game or RPG Mortal Kombat game. I want just as much as like a open, semi-open world action adventure God of War style Mortal Kombat game. I feel like Mortal Kombat is one of those fighting games that has the potential, because of the lore, to be massive. It doesn't just have to be a fighting game. Obviously, it starts as a fighting game. It's a fighting game at its heart, but the lore and all the different aspects of the Mortal Kombat universe really, expanded to be something else. Like it could be an RPG game. It could have a whole IP of certain games, like say like Warhammer. The lore is so massive that you could have games of all types. You have that Space Marine 2, you have those Total War games, right, with the Total War Warhammer, and then you have the RPG games. Like Mortal Kombat is so massive that you could fit basically any genre in these Mortal Kombat universe and it would work, I feel, if it's executed properly. And that's what I want for the future of Mortal Kombat. Turn it into a bigger franchise, not just fighting games. Next up is Mortal Kombat Armageddon. Now, Armageddon really had a lot going for it and not a lot going for it at the same time. Let's think. I want to break it down. I'm going to put it in the not played right now for sure. 'Cause I did play it, but I got to think about this. So the pros of Armageddon. It had a massive roster. You could play as basically fucking anybody. It had the motor combat. It had the conquest mode, which kind of was sort of more like Shaolin monks than the open world, which, I didn't mind. But you played as Taven, and you basically led up to the events of Armageddon, which was sort of kind of meaningless because he just died in Armageddon. But then you had Create a Fighter, and yeah, that's about it. The cons of this game. You had no fatalities. You had something called Create a Fatality. And because of that, I don't know why exactly. I heard that it was too big, so they had to cut something, and out of everything they cut, traditional unique fatalities for every character. I know every character has sort of like two stances. Is it just like a normal stance and a weapon stance? Correct me if I'm wrong. But a lot of this game felt unfinished. I played it a lot because, at the time when you're a kid, you're just like, oh, look at all these characters. And again, I also love the intro cutscene. Perhaps the best intro cutscene in any Mortal Kombat game. The Armageddon battle was amazing. But however, from a game standpoint, there wasn't really much to do, and there wasn't really like a lot of substance. Like you focused more on quantity rather than quality, and for that, I have to say that it's probably the worst 3D era game, not counting Mortal Kombat 4. I want to put it at the end of A tier, but I don't know. I really don't know. I'm going to put it at the end of A tier for now. And if it changes, then it changes. Mortal Kombat Special Forces, I have not played. But I heard that game was turbo ass. I seen gameplay of it. You're like you're playing as Jax or whatever, and you're just shooting things, and it just looks ass. It really launched nothing other than like Tremor. Tremor was cool. That's all I gotta say about that. What is this? Is this Mortal Kombat Trilogy again? For the PlayStation. I guess we'll not add this one because if that's the same as Mortal Kombat Trilogy, then it's right here. Mortal Kombat 11. No. What is... This game was hated a lot because of the mechanics, and they slowed down a lot of the style of the game. It was very defensive, especially when coming from Mortal Kombat X, jumping to Mortal Kombat 11. That was a hard pivot. But this is what I'll say. I don't want to be biased because at the time everyone hated it. They were like, yo, this game sucks. The story mode kind of sucks. But look at what we have now. We have Mortal Kombat 1. So this game, what I say about this game is it did a good job keeping the casual player engaged. It was really easy to play casually, and I feel like that was good for Mortal Kombat 11 at the time. It had the Towers of Time mode. The story mode wasn't as bad. The Aftermath was way better than Mortal Kombat's Chaos Reign. And I think because of the Towers of Time mode and then the story mode not being like turbo ass, the multiplayer, somewhat working, and then the creative variations and the different customization for the fighters. You could customize like their outfit. They weren't just like palette swaps. I mean, there were some palette swaps, but not all just palette swaps like Mortal Kombat 1. You could customize your intro, your victory. They brought back friendships, which is, other than fatalities, is my favorite ending. You had mercy. You had all that stuff. I think the roster wasn't too bad at all. The guest characters were kind of awesome. I just didn't really like Rambo. This game, frankly, I think was a little overhated. I have to put it at the top of A tier. I think it's way better than all the Mortal Kombat arcade games, but it isn't as good as like X, or I want to put X in front of 9. I liked X more than 9. It wasn't as good as X or 9 or Shaolin Monks, but it's up there. As a matter of fact, I'll put it up here because from a Mortal Kombat game standpoint, when you look at what we got here compared to like Mortal Kombat 11, Mortal Kombat 11 is pretty good. It's just that the fighting style was really terrible, and that's the biggest gripe about the game. And obviously, in a fighting game, that is about like 90% of the game, right? Because you would want a good fighting style. But you know, a lot of the content really makes up for it. The crypt was really amazing. It was basically like a semi-open world. You know, you go as the crypt guy, you could open puzzles, do all this thing. There's so many secrets and stuff you could find at the crypt. I loved it. I don't know why they took it away from Mortal Kombat 1. Speaking of Mortal Kombat 1, we come to our last game. Mortal Kombat 1. The most recent entry in the series. A reboot. Liu Kang's timeline. Invasions mode. No crypt. Cameos. Online basically being broken. Where does this stand? Mortal Kombat 1. Where does this stand? I say... I have to think about this. Because you guys already know about Mortal Kombat 1. I say that... This one's hard. Because I want to like it. The presentation is there. The gameplay is fun. You know, the roster, I love how they basically redid a lot of the 3D era characters and brought them to life in a more modern era. The story mode, at least for the first half, was amazing. You know, it actually tried to tell a story, and I love Liu Kang's new timeline. I love the presentation of it, the music, the ambiance, the everything. The substance just wasn't there. You didn't really have much to do. Other than story mode, other than the spectacle of the presentation and the cool fatalities, the animalities, and all that stuff. What is there? There's invasions mode, but that's just like a mobile game thing in a $60 was it $70 $60 I don't even remember. It's $70 game. Like, this is 2020 whatever when it came out. You would think that we would be going forward, not backwards. And compared to Mortal Kombat 11, compared to Mortal Kombat Deception, we went backwards. And that breaks my heart. I don't think Mortal Kombat 1 is a bad game, but perhaps it is the game that really, really, really didn't live up to its potential. Like, this game had the greatest, margin of, awesome factor. Like, this game could have been the best Mortal Kombat game. They're starting from scratch. The graphics look good. The fighting style is an improvement on 11's. The cameo could be executed very well, but, that's opinion based. They could have added tag combat. The roster, I loved it. It just was underbaked when, everyone expected it to be amazing. I think that it is a good game compared to other Mortal Kombat games. Perhaps better than Deception. It doesn't have that sort of charm as like Mortal Kombat 3 or that substance of Mortal Kombat 11 or just like the it factor of Mortal Kombat 9. The gameplay of Mortal Kombat X doesn't have it. Doesn't have the content of Mortal Kombat Deception. It's just mediocre on a lot of levels. But looking at this list, we've had a lot of mediocre games, or games, at the time were not too good. So that's why I put Mortal Kombat 1 in the A tier. So I want to arrange it from sort of worst to best, at least in my opinion, and this is what I got. So obviously, starting from the left, going to the right, then left to the right, then left to the right, left to the right. So the best being Deception, then X, then 9, then Shaolin Monks, then 11, then Ultimate 3, 1, Deadly Alliance, Trilogy, Armageddon, 2, 3, 1, Gold, 4, DC Universe, Mythologies, Tournament Edition, Special Forces, and then, yeah. That's my list. That's what I think of the Mortal Kombat games. That's what I think about all of them. And obviously my favorite is still Deception. But I really love anything above, you know, B tier and up. B tier and up are playable games. These games are fairly good, you know. You can't go wrong with about any of them. It's just that some are a lot better than others. But that's just my take. Let me know what you guys think down below. Is there anything that you would change? Obviously, I have a lot of personal opinions playing these games and a lot of nostalgia that plays a factor because I know fundamentally, you know, Deception probably wasn't as good as, you know, I said it was. But that's just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think down below. Do you think that, you know, perhaps Mortal Kombat Special Forces should be up here? Or do you think that Mortal Kombat 1 is the greatest game of all time? Do you think it's the worst game of all time? You guys let me know. Anyways, Mr. Frosty Flames out. I hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe and comment. Do all that stuff. Join the Legion. Subscribe and join the Legion. Mr. Frosty Flames out. Ciao.